Welcome back, Chelsea fans, to another episode of the London is Blue podcast, your home for all things Chelsea FC. Nick, Dan, and myself cover all the match reviews from the latest Chelsea matches. We cover the team news and even throw you some exclusive interviews. Thank you already for being an awesome listener. And you know what? Let's jump right in. All right, part 2 of the week. Chelsea listeners, we are back with the full crew. Dan, Nick, myself, and brought Mike back in as we like to for these part 2s. Mike, welcome back.
Hey, what's up, guys?
And then we've got Alex sticking around for part 2 with us. That's a double shift, Alex. We really appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it in return.
So if you missed the match review part 1, go back and listen to that. This is a bit of an extension, mainly focusing on all of your social media questions that you have sent to us, also through Patreon. And then we will look ahead to the Bournemouth match coming up at the weekend. But before we get into that, Nick, we do have another very cool kind of content content project that we're going to give them an inside peek at.
That's right. So as most of you know, we went down to Tampa about a month ago and had the chance to sit down with Joe Cole for about an hour. He couldn't have been cooler about everything. It was a great interview. We've been working on getting a video cut and our normal podcast cut together, and we're looking at a release date for on or around September 7th. So don't hold us to that date exactly, but that's what we're looking to. So we just wanted to give you a peek behind the curtain that is coming up. We think you'll find it fascinating. We certainly did, and there could also be, and I'm giving you the inside baseball here. There could also be some sort of giveaway option that comes along with it. So just stay tuned to our social channels and stay tuned to this podcast, and you'll be happy that you did.
For sure. We're looking to release a few videos off of that because he did sit down with us on camera, as well as the full thing in audio podcast form. So a ton of different content is going to come out of that. Again, if you've been around, you will love hearing from Joe Cole about a ton of stuff. But let's go ahead and jump right in. Dan, right off the bat from Patreon, Jacob asking, do you feel that this Chelsea team is one that can contend for Premier League and Champions League titles in the coming years under Sarri, or are there positions that definitely need to be upgraded? It's early, but the excitement of Sarri ball is infectious.
Why can't we contend this season?
Why can't Manchester City exists?
Well, but you know, I think here's the thing. Couple injuries break your way. You eke out some results that you weren't supposed to. Couple officials just go absolutely crazy and award goals that get knocked in by a hand. I mean, I don't know. Like, I think we are currently very underrated as a squad compared to Tottenham, compared to United, compared to City, compared to Liverpool. And I just feel like anytime that happens, Chelsea seems to find a way, seems to grow out of the darkness and into the light, and just surprises the heck out of everybody. And so I don't think it has to be next season. I think Mauricio Sarri will win at least a trophy this season, whether that be Europa League, FA Cup, league title. He will win a trophy this season, and I don't think it's honestly out of the realm of possibility for it to be the Premier League championship.
Oh my God,
I love it.
So not only does he break his duck and win a trophy, but he wins the Premier League trophy over Pep. Interesting.
Stranger things have happened. Stranger things have happened, and I'm saying that, like, you know, what happens if Aguero gets injured? What happens if Bernardo Silva has a bad run of form? What happens if KDB doesn't come back?
They have 8 replacements. Look at their squad. Like, that's what they're multiply. They're crazy. Mike, go ahead, man.
I was going to say our Italian manager in their first season have done it before. Why not? Why not again? I'm with you, Dan.
I want it to happen. I just think you're crazy.
To be fair, Jacob did say in the years to come. So we don't have to condense it all down to right now. There is opportunity for growth. We don't need to talk about any positions that are going to be upgraded, because here's my insight on that. Chelsea should always be looking to upgrade every position if they ever can. They would be stupid not to. That's what top European clubs do. So yes, Jacob, we will continue to upgrade. One from Mark, obviously fallen back from before. He says, hey guys, it's nice beating Newcastle at home. First off, I'd like to thank Marcos Alonso for making my birthday weekend great with his heroics in quotations. After 3 game days under Sarri, what changes do you want to see overall? Have a great Labor Day weekend. Obviously, that is coming up for us in the U.S. So, Alex, for you, any changes that you want to see overall after 3 matches under Sarri, excluding any defensive changes that we talked about at the end of the last episode?
All right, happy birthday, Mark. And yeah, excluding the defensive ones, no, as of right now, I want everything to stand still, unless you can be irrational and tell me that Callum Hudson-Odoi has a chance of sneaking into a starting wing spot, which he does not at the moment anyway, and I understand that. Maurizio Sarri told us a good month ago that Callum Hudson-Odoi's Premier League involvement would not be much this season. No, besides defense, so besides the back 4, I like the midfield with Kovacic starting. And if you give me a choice of Pedro versus Willian, I'm taking Pedro all day. And as frustrating as Morata has been for me, I'm definitely still giving him a handful more chances. So in answer to that question, no, I would not change the starting 11 besides defense.
Mike, we haven't heard from you on any of the changes based off last episode. So here's your chance to kind of jump in and weigh in any opinions you think on that.
I'm okay with what we're at right now. I think for me, the misplay by Sarri was putting both Eden and Kovacic in at the same time. I think they're both waned a little bit in the second half, and I think I would have gone with a Barkley just from a size and physicality to try and deal with some of the fouling that we saw. Overall, to me personally, I think maybe just a substitution for Alonso in the 70th, 80th minute. To get somebody defensive and shore up the defense, because I think that's when some of those mistakes have come in late in the game when he's been marauding up the wings.
All right. Well, another one we have is from Caleb. Nick says, am I totally insane to think that we should consider an attacking alternative in the 3-man midfield rather than World Cup winner N'Golo Kante when we play versus a back 9, even if not from the start? This may be the role where Cesc can thrive this year.
You are insane to take an N'Golo Kante off the field at any point. And Caleb and I message on LinkedIn all the time, so just a shout out to him. He's an awesome dude. I think the flexibility that you get with N'Golo Kante and any combination of Kovacic, Barkley, RLC is balance, right? Like you have to have it. N'Golo Kante still doesn't feel super comfortable in and around the box, but that doesn't mean that can't change this year. I do think his point of Cesc, as a super sub is something that we've been talking about for a while. Cesc is going to have to get healthy and then prove that he's, even in contention. I mean, if Ruben can't even get a sniff at the field, it's going to be uphill sledding for anyone else. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a balance you need to have, but I think you'd be crazy in the Premier League to strip yourself of one of the best midfielders in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. What, Mike?
Get some help, Caleb.
Say it.
No, look, Cesc might have had a magic hat, but Jorginho's got a magic everything. And I don't think that at this point, with Cesc's recent form, I don't think he should be stepping a foot on the pitch. Not unless there's injuries or other things. He's got to be at least 5th in line. So that's my
What about
take.
as a fan? Could he step onto the pitch as a fan?
Yes.
Could he step on to hand out like a certificate to someone for becoming a pitch owner? Could he take over that responsibility right now?
Yeah, he could very slowly walk out onto the pitch.
Well, playing off of this is Brett saying we're going to see plenty of teams line up to play this way against us this campaign with the style of football we play. Would you think it would be wise to play a more attacking lineup compared to the one Sarri presented today? I don't know. I mean, Dan, how many more attacking changes can Sarri make from today's lineup?
Not many. I think Alex mentioned Callum Hudson-Odoi. Seems to be very far down the pecking order at the moment right now. You could put Barkley in and say that's an attacking option to move forward. You could find a way to maybe play with a front four, Pedro as the second striker, and Willian on the right, Hazard on the left. Like you could get a little freaky with the lineups here, but I don't think you're going to see wholesale changes in that way. Mauricio Sarri, as we've talked to Matteo, as we've talked to Alex, as we talked to Alex McGovern about Mauricio Sarri, the way he's played at Napoli, he does not believe in a lot of wholesale changes, and if he finds his starting 11, it's going to stay that way. And so I don't think it's going to fluctuate much based upon how the team is going to line up. I think the bigger issue is going to be is how is Mauricio Sarri going to prepare and coach the team to be successful against different types of opposition. And I think you have to field your best 11 players, not players that are positionally right, because that is only going to work as long as that position holds. And the moment that falls away in a match, now you have someone on the pitch who isn't suited to play against the fact that the shape has changed or the game has changed or the speed or the tempo has changed. You have to put your best 11 out and train them on the pitch, train them on the training pitch to get them ready for any type of game situation.
Is that where you're at, Alex, from you? I mean, again, it's a pretty attacking style just going forward the way it is.
Yeah, honestly, I totally agree in terms of this is about as attacking as it's going to get with the currently constituted team. Now, I do want to get funky and throw Callum Hudson-Odoi in there in those type of games where you're going to park the bus against Chelsea. And see, the thing about Callum Hudson-Odoi, and I'm not going to harp on it too much because then the dreamer side really comes out of me and it's just time wasted. But what Chelsea really do lack is finishers. They're willing shooters. They lack willing shooters. And that's one of the reasons why I actually like Pedro involved in all of this, because Pedro is a better finisher than Willian and probably also a more willing finisher than Willian, a willing shot taker than Willian. Alvaro Morata right now is definitely struggling with his confidence. It feels like he doesn't know when to shoot and when not to shoot. And if anything, shoot. This is why I didn't want Michy Batshuayi leaving, is Michy Batshuayi has a little bit of a selfish aspect to his game. But honestly, on this current Chelsea team, you need that. I want people who want to shoot. And we all know Eden Hazard, he would like to pass just as much as he'd like to shoot. So I wanted a Callum Hudson-Odoi involved because he likes the eye for goal. But right now, I don't know how much more offensive you can really go. I've talked about for a couple weeks now that between N'Golo Kante, Jorginho, and Mateo Kovacic, and then, of course, a Barkley, who, by the way, should be shooting when he comes in the game, which I mentioned on the last episode with you guys. One of those midfielders is going to have a little bit more of an eye for goal. And out of Kante, Jorginho, and Kovacic, even though Kante has already scored a goal and Jorginho scored a penalty, I think it's Mateo Kovacic that needs to shoot a little bit more. And I'm not judging him yet. I mean, he had a great cameo the first time, and then this last game he played 90 minutes, and he didn't play 90 minutes, but he started and he was okay. But I think as the games go on, it's someone like Mateo Kovacic who probably needs to look for goal a little bit more, because what about if Morata is in a rut? What about if Pedro is showing his old age? What about if Hazard is being unselfish? They're going to need the midfield to pop it a little bit more, but I'm not sure Sarri can do a whole lot more bringing in players off the bench unless it is a Callum Hudson-Odoi.
Okay, well, maybe instead of bringing players off the bench, how about this, Mike? Reed asks, are we better off with Jorginho playing more advanced and letting World Cup winner N'Golo Kante play in the holding mid role that he's excelled at the past 2 years? Reed doesn't think that Kante is skilled enough with the ball to play up there, and he also doesn't think that Jorginho is aggressive enough or fast enough to cover as the holding midfielder.
I think he has to let go of Conte's way of playing and embrace Sarri ball. I mean, this is what it is. And until we see that little bit more communication of that 15 yards maintained with, the back line and the midfield, there are going to be gaps, there are going to be problems, but Jorginho is exactly where he needs to be, and that is in the center, and that's him marshalling everything and directing. So, at times, could we see a better pivot maybe? Yes, maybe, but I I think we have to go forward, and I'm happy with how they're playing now. And I think with more time, you're going to just see a better communication, a better play.
Couldn't agree more there, Mike. I think the natural feeling that you get as a Chelsea fan who's watched N'Golo Kante play over the last 2 seasons and have been amazed at his ability to track back and tackle is that when you get that security blanket back there and then you take it away, I think even our defenders are like, oh, well, where's the superhuman who's going to help me do my job? Well, that superhuman is up the pitch trying to win the ball in more advanced positions now. And Jorginho is the man who's controlling the tempo, controlling the passing movement, beginning, especially as you saw last week with, his pass to Alonso to Pedro, controlling the tempo by putting the ball in advanced positions. And yes, I think there's some physicality. Like if we could combine them and make one super player, it would be pretty impressive, but we can't. And I think this is a opportunity for all Chelsea fans to be okay with being uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable. I love N'Golo Kante, and it gives me a little anxiety not seeing him right in front of David Luiz when he makes a run out. But I think this is going to have to be how it is if we want the tempo and the control of the game to be what Maurizio Sarri has in mind.
A lot of room for growth. We knew that was going to happen for the beginning, but that's part of the evolution, and you can't just flip the switch and have N'Golo be completely comfortable in that position. But again, having Jorginho really be the one to direct and be the general back there makes a lot of sense to me. He's not afraid of a tackle. He's not a 2-footed tackler like Newcastle. He's much more of a, nick it off you and then run up the other way. But his ability to release a pass to go forward is probably one of the best in the Premier League, and having him in that role I think will help us as we move on. Another question from Philip says, we saw Kovacic and Eden Hazard in the starting 11 today, but there was not a huge goal threat. What changes need to be made either tactically or personnel-wise to have more of a goal threat on the pitch, especially against teams that bunker as much as Newcastle did? So, I mean, to me, Dan, I don't know. I don't like that question. I think the Newcastle thing changes this situation completely, because to me, this is the one-off match, whereas Kovacic and Eden Hazard against the Southampton, against, I don't know. I keep going back to Everton. Whoever else will be mid-table. Bournemouth,
Watford,
maybe
Bournemouth.
Exactly.
I think you're going to see some more of the interchange there. What we saw flashes of when we got the substitute appearance between the two of them at the end of the Arsenal match, is that there will be that interchange, that will be that positive play forward. I think there is going to be an opportunity to go for goal. I think again, look to someone like Pedro to be the beneficiary, kind of in a second striker type of situation where he might end up getting more of the targets, more of the chances on goal, and be able to really, take advantage of, Sarri ball as it stands and get an opportunity to shoot from outside the box, to find himself in positions. If the left side is overloaded, then the ball is placed back on the right-hand side. He gets enough space. He'll take the shot from outside the box. He's willing to put the laces underneath the ball and try to slot it into the top right-hand corner, top left-hand corner. So I don't know if that goal is going to come from the midfield, but I think if it comes from anywhere, I think Pedro is still the person who's going to be potentially the unsung hero, the sneaky MVP under the Sarri system.
Can I jump in and say one thing too? I agree. This is going to be a one-off. We're not going to see the flat 9 or the fat 9, as we were calling it at the pub today, in honor of Rafa. But the difference between this season and previous seasons is which they did everything possible to bunker down and put every man behind the ball, and we beat that. And once teams see that we're still going to score multiple goals, throwing 9-10 men behind the ball, they're going to have to change tactics. It's what you don't see teams doing that against City because it doesn't work. And I think that by making a statement today, even giving up that 85th minute goal, Chelsea's here and we're here to ball, and we're looking kind of like NBA style. We're going to concede some goals, but if we have possession at the end of the game, we've got some shooters that are going to hit that clutch shot, and I think that's going to scare teams, and I think it will change how they defend us as in years past.
One can only hope that not everyone bunkers 9-10 behind the ball. Right. Well, the last one that we have from Patreon is from Tom. He says, we saw Ruben on the bench today, which was refreshing. What do you think are the chances of Sarri bringing him on as a sub in the near future? Is he leaving him off the pitch because of his lack of tactical ability or positioning still? ? Alex, I guess I don't remember. I'm sure you've done a video on Ruben, but kind of what's your point on this and stance? Obviously, Ruben was on the bench, off the bench, back on the bench. What's going to happen with RLC?
I'm so torn on RLC. I have done a video recently on him, and here's where I stand. My heart wants him to stay, and it looks like he's going to stay because I really love Ruben Loftus-Cheek. I always have. I've drank the Kool-Aid on what Ruben Loftus-Cheek can be. But my head says, considering there's Mateo Kovacic, considering there's Ross Barkley, both for that left center mid spot, and then on top of it, there's Cesc Fabregas behind Jorginho and kind of behind N'Golo Kante as well for the other midfield spots, and even Danny Drinkwater.
No.
I don't know. No. But he is. He's at least – no, he's not behind. I'm sorry. He's not behind, but he's on the team sheet. Danny Drinkwater is another midfielder that's getting paid by Chelsea Football Club on Chelsea. So nonetheless, there are 7 midfielders when you consider Ruben Loftus-Cheek. And I'm torn, guys. I am torn because when I suggested last week that Ruben Loftus-Cheek go on loan, and a good loan, albeit, I don't want him going on any loan, because if there's anybody who doesn't have faith in sending and Chelsea having their youngsters go out on loan, it's this guy right here, me. I think they are so careless in how they let their youngsters choose their loans. It's like they don't care at all. They use their youth as only a business model, a business profit, and they don't care about their well-being. With that said, I still do think Ruben Loftus-Cheek should be on a good loan rather than staying at Chelsea Football Club, trying his damn hardest. And I love his attitude that he wants to now try and earn a spot. But everyone's talking to me about, oh, well, he'll play in Europa League games. He'll play in FA Cup games. He'll play in Carabao Cup games. He'll get enough playing time. That's not as much playing time as maybe some people realize. And if he doesn't ever feature even as a sub in Premier League games, it's just not a lot. And now somebody may counter me, guys, and say, well, you want Callum Hudson-Odoi staying and you want Callum Hudson-Odoi playing in those cup matches. But guess what, guys? Callum Hudson-Odoi is 17 years old. He is still going to play in those development squad games, whether we like it or not. Ruben Loftus-Cheek is not going to be playing in those development squad games. So I have a problem with Ruben Loftus-Cheek staying at 22 years old after he just had his first professional season at Crystal Palace. Mind you, he didn't even play a full season because of injury, and he didn't even play that season in his supposed position center mid. He played more on the left. I have a problem with Ruben Loftus-Cheek just being a squad player, hoping for Europa League games, hoping for FA Cup and Carabao Cup games. I don't necessarily think that's great for Ruben Loftus-Cheek's development. But my heart, once again, is saying, well, Alex, he's good. He's going to beat out a Ross Barkley for that backup LCM spot. He might even beat out the backup spot for RCM. He could figure it into 2 center mid positions. He'll make his way into the team. So my heart and head are really battling here. But honestly, I wish Ruben Loftus-Cheek would have pushed a little bit harder for a top-tier Bundesliga or La Liga move. I'm not against that he's here, but I just don't know if it's great for Ruben Loftus-Cheek's future that he is still here.
I'm going to jump in. I think there's a lot of sound logic and self-argument there. So I understand your mentality, and I'm kind of in the same boat, Alex. I want him to stay and just battle through this season. It's much easier to go on loan and feature, for a Bundesliga club or for a Crystal Palace or for whoever. It's super easy to do that because he is a talented player, and I think what is being asked of him in this sorry role is going to be one of the most challenging things he comes up against in his career. Namely that he has to be positionally locked in for all 90 minutes if he's going to start, and he has to use his God-given abilities, both physical and mental, to ensure that he's contributing in a meaningful way, right? Like, you're not just going to put him out there to put him out there. We want him to score goals. We want him to have dribbles. We want him to have assists. We want to see him help the flow of the game like a Kovacic does, or like, even Barkley has shown in glimpses. I'm still not super sold on Barkley, and I think that Ruben has a chance if he shows up in training to supersede Barkley, because I feel like that's, I think his God-given ability is just better than Barkley's personally. It doesn't mean that's going to happen. He's going to have to earn it. And I think if he overcomes this challenge, it will benefit him for the rest of his career. And so I hope that's what happens, Brandon.
Time will tell. Obviously, Ruben is an exciting topic just because of how much excitement and passion Chelsea fans have behind him and want to see him succeed. Unfortunately, the stat of John Terry being the last youth player to come through the academy to make it to the first team is still lingering, and something that Chelsea fans want to see get broken. So moving on. Again, thank you everyone from Patreon. Those are all your questions. We really, really appreciate all the support you get. If you want to get your question right at the top of this episode, jump on over to our Patreon. So Shane at ArithMuggle on Twitter saying, what is something you've noticed that has been consistent across our first 3 matches? Now, Mike, this can be kind of anything, whether it's Sarri chewing on cigarette butts, our formation, maybe our goalkeeper, but is there anything that maybe has caught your eye after 3 matches so far?
That is a really good question. So hats off for that. I almost feel like I'm a bit like David Luiz right now, caught flat-footed. I don't know. I think, and look, I gotta say, going back into that, the last hour of the other episode, sitting here and not being able to jump in and correct Alex, I felt a bit like Dale Dovak watching somebody touch my drum set. You put your nuts all over it, Alex, and I was not happy. But I think that for me, what is what's remained constant for me is the hope. We are watching something that we have not seen in a long time. And you take out some of the players not playing together or errors or whatever it is. This is a squad, and this is a level of play and a style of play that we have not seen. And that hope and that joy in watching it, for me, that's been the best thing so far.
Anyone else want to jump in on that particularly? I know one thing that I thought was anti-consistent was the fact that Chelsea were wearing all blue today. That's not something you see very often, Dan, and personally wasn't my favorite.
Yeah, I guess if there were consistent things that I've enjoyed, seeing Zola next to Sarri has been quite wonderful. That's a really positive thing. Getting to see the away kits, not consistently, but I think I'm going to consistently enjoy seeing those. And I consistently will hope that we do not concede goals the same way we have been over the past 2 matches. So you can't play Huddersfield every week, which is the unfortunate thing, because we would have already been the Premier League champions 15 times over if that was the case.
It would be much too easy, but the Premier League's far too competitive for that, which brings us to Morata, and the first one is at Naya Gurwal saying, what is Morata doing wrong? Is he even getting enough chances to score? At CB__4601. What do you think of Morata's performance today? Personally thought he didn't offer much, and in January we need to get somebody else's thoughts. So Nick, it kind of goes on and on. A lot of people that are looking at Morata as potentially a weak point. I think we all said that collectively last week with Naz, saying that Morata is the one position we would upgrade if we could today. And then at Blue Up North, Jason saying he was at the game and there was a lot of hate towards Morata. What is your opinion of him / our striker situation?
I think there are a lot of people who are having Torres syndrome with this move, and they're 2 different players, and Torres had a much longer goal drought at the beginning of his career, and I wasn't super thrilled with the performance from Morata today. I don't think Morata was super thrilled with the performance from himself. I don't think that the wingers interchanged well, or that he made the right runs to be in the right spaces. There's a lot that went wrong. But I think for all those who are feeling nervous or having anxiety about like, oh, this is another Torres, they're completely different situations. And I'm not saying that everyone's feeling like that, but it's a sense that I get from people. Oh, he's Spanish. Oh, he's kind of admitted to the pressure getting to him last year. And I think people are affording him a lot less grace than what they did 6 years ago with Fernando. So just separate them from your mind. If you're gonna just be angry at the performance from Morata, that's cool with me. But please don't do the over comparison thing. That's all I care about.
Yeah, and if we're going to be critical of how he's played, let's also talk about a few things that we saw from him. We saw some fight that we haven't seen in a while. I don't know if you guys remember seeing him. He was all up in Fernandez's face. And shoving and fighting to defend some teammates after, again, lots of ugly fouls. And he also, I think, ran over Yedlin and maybe another player. So I'm hoping maybe we're seeing a little bit of a change, maybe a little bit of a spark and extra fight that maybe he will add to his game to kind of step it up over the next few matches. Dan, what are you thinking?
No, I'm still down with Morata. I think that he again is growing. I think he's acclimatized to the Premier League. I think he actually when he went down to ground during this match, he actually got the whistle, and I think felt pretty good about that. He's not going down at every little flick or gust of wind or piece of dirt or dust and debris in his eye, mouth, face, or nose holes. So he really has matured a little bit from last season to this season, and I think the problem is you have two players that are the second striker. Like, they are the better to come off the bench. They're the better to play an understudy to an absolute world beater of a striker in Giroud and Morata. And because of that no one of the two of them is going to say, I should be the striker, start me every single match, and I will guarantee you that over 90, 100, 110, 120 minutes, I will get a goal or a goal plus an assist. Like, that is not what we have at Chelsea. And I think that's where, when you look at elevating the quality of this squad, and I know Brandon doesn't want to talk about future transfer windows, but January, summer, you're looking at a striker again, because at that point Giroud will probably have extended his contract to the maximum, and then you would look at seeing, do you add someone potentially to go alongside Morata to be the number one, and Morata stays at the number two and potentially flourishes in that role, or do you potentially try to look at just upgrading fully and then filling it back in with Amishi, with a Tammy Abraham, if he has a successful either loan or season understudying underneath these two?
Guys, if I can quickly butt in here on Alvaro Morata, I have to. Alvaro Morata, okay, he's a polarizing Chelsea figure right now. And I admitted right in the middle of the summer, before this preseason ever started, that I was probably a little bit too hard on Alvaro Morata once things went wrong last season, once he became quote unquote injured and he stopped missing a lot of clear-cut chances. And I chalked it up eventually to, he had a rough personal year. I don't know if anybody knows what happened to him personally, but it was a rough year. Felt very bad for him. He also, just in your first year in the Premier League as a striker, that can be very, very tough. Once you miss one, you miss 10. Okay, so it's very, very tough. However, I cut him a break and I backed off, and I said, this next year under Maurizio Sarri, in his second year in the Premier League, which is always a more successful year, and under an attacking manager, Alvaro Morata should be better. Now, preseason doesn't mean a whole lot. So once he struggled in the preseason, I said, oh, well, let him grease the wheels a little bit. Let him grease the wheels, right? He's got to get accustomed to the new manager. He's got to get free-flowing. But he doesn't have that injury anymore that he talked about. And by the way, he has a new manager. He's on to a new season. season. He's put Italy, his supposed destination, behind him, okay? Then all of a sudden he still struggles, but he has twins, and God bless him. I can still congratulate him on the twins. I never will throw a personal cheap blow. I really like Alvaro Morata off the pitch. So I was like, okay, he had twins, good. Like, he'll take a couple days. That's so much more important than football. You have kids, that's huge. That's huge. Then he continues to struggle, right? He changes his number. He goes from 9 to 29, and we all go, oh, now he's going to be great. Now he's going to be great. He totally put to bed the number 9 curse. Now he's going to be great. Well, he's not great. The first game of the season, he doesn't score a goal, but everybody applauds him because he's positive. He's positive. He didn't produce, but he's positive, right? Okay, now the second game of the season, he scores a very nice goal, and it was really nice to see. However, Chelsea fans acted as if he scored a hat trick, as if he put in a complete performance. And all the while, I'm asking, what are we doing here? What are we doing? I'm not here to bash a player. Contrary to maybe what some people would think on Twitter, I will never bash a player out of bounds. I will never throw a personal cheap low blow. I will never go out of bounds in terms of saying something about a player's personality off the pitch. I will talk about Morata's mentality on the pitch, but I am not here to go overboard, whether you believe me or not. However, what are we doing here? This is Chelsea frickin' Football Club. This is professional sports. All the people who tell me to stop talking about Morata on Twitter are the same people that say, oh, Didier Drogba struggled in his first year, and then Didier Drogba came true in his second year. You think I'm putting pressure on Morata when you're talking about Morata in Didier Drogba circumstances? Check yourself. Check yourself. That is ridiculous. So honestly, I will back Morata. I still want Morata to come good because I think highly of him as a person, and I think he has a lot of talent. But let's be real. This is not a world-class striker that we have at Chelsea Football Club. It is just not. We are babying Alvaro Morata, and let's just lower our expectations. That's all I'm saying.
Just want to give that a moment to breathe a little bit, like a fine wine, as some people would say. Look, you want a striker who bangs in the goals. We all do. No matter what had happened last season with Alvaro, Conte was a negative coach. We all know that. It provided to some magnificent counterattacks that broke at lightning speeds. That just didn't play into him. Again, we'll kind of see how it goes, but obviously that's the easiest place to point and say Chelsea need to fix. What I do want to kind of follow that up with just though and say, hey, Jason, keep us posted on what the fans in the stadium are reacting towards Morata. I think that's a really interesting angle that obviously us as fans from abroad will never really get that perspective. I'd be really interested to see kind of how the match-going fans continue to take to Morata on that. So really appreciate that. One kind of last follow-up before we move on to the match preview is actually from at Farweezy. Nick, we talked about how great of a debut Kovacic made last week. We ran the stats. We looked at it, saw how pretty he danced. It was fantastic. Guess what? He made his first start today. He even asked to be subbed, if you didn't see Maurizio Sarri's press conference afterwards. How do you think he did overall on the full debut?
I think it was still very good. I think it's sometimes easier to come on and make the impact look that much different because you have fresh legs and other players on the pitch don't. But I do feel really good about his positional awareness. I feel really good about his passing. I feel really good about his seemingly magnetic interchange with Hazard when they kind of swap roles and move forward. Like, I think there's just a bunch of great things that are happening with him, and he doesn't look to me, Dan, like a guy who wants to lose that starting spot anytime soon.
No, not at all. I think he looks like someone who wants to take the position. I thought it was interesting that Sarri, being interviewed after the match, talked about the fact that Kovacic, had asked for the substitution off, clearly still getting up to the right level of match fitness, not like the 200% Eden Hazard, his words, not ours. So, I think we have to have a little bit of patience with him. I think, again, just like we do with the entire team right now, because you're learning a new system. There are potentially players who are climatizing to playing in the Premier League, playing for Chelsea, which is a burden unto itself. So I'm hopeful for the future. I'm excited about what he brings, but I'm also reserving just a little bit because, there's a wait and see element too. He's technically not Chelsea's player, even though he's posted on social media and basically gave a goodbye without saying goodbye to Real Madrid. He still is their player on loan to Chelsea.
All right, well, let's go ahead and move it on to the match preview. We have AFC Bournemouth coming up. Nick's spot on for relegation as far as he's concerned. Gonna be taking them on in the Premier League. Coming back home to Stamford Bridge this coming Saturday on September 1st. Alex, the way you look at it is a bit of a thriller. 2-2 draw with Everton this weekend, both teams getting red cards. Other than that, they have beaten Cardiff and they have also beaten West Ham. They've scored 2 goals in all of their games, but they are susceptible, as we know, to giving up goals. Going to be down to Asmir Begovic, former Blues. Chelsea fans know all about him. Anything excited or maybe concerned about for when it comes to taking on the Cherries at the weekend?
Oh, God, I love Asmir Begovic. In fact, I've interviewed him before, and he's really a forthcoming guy. And I don't know, I think we all kind of feel some type of endearment towards Asmir, yet I'm not scared at all. Asmir had a bad game at the weekend, and Bournemouth, they just don't scare me one bit. They're not doing so bad this season, as you already said, but no, honestly, it's a Bournemouth game that scares me less than a Newcastle game. I feel like Bournemouth, based on their style and based on the fact that they actually have some points here in the Premier League, are going to approach it a little bit more normal than Newcastle did with Rafa Benitez. And Bournemouth just don't have the artillery to protect a Maurizio Sarri style Chelsea, especially at Stamford Bridge. I have really no worries about this game. I love Nathan Ake, but that doesn't, once again, change my opinion whatsoever. I hate match predictions, and I know you didn't even ask me for a match prediction, but I think this is going to be a resounding Chelsea win. I think this is going to be more of a game where you realize that, okay, when you think about it, a Bournemouth and a Newcastle, if you're just thinking really laissez-faire, they're about the same. They're whatever. We don't care. They're not relegation teams necessarily, but they're definitely not top 6 teams. But I think a Bournemouth plays way better into Chelsea's style of play. I think they'll try and allow Chelsea to play a little bit more of their game. Not that they want Chelsea to play their game, but they're going to try to at least be more representative of who they are. As I said in the previous episode, I thought Newcastle just immediately tucked their tails. I don't know if Bournemouth's going to do that. And honestly, I think that's going to be death to Bournemouth against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. I love you, Asmir Begovic, but you're not going to have a great season.
All right. God
oh,
damn.
Poor Asmir. Okay. Man.
I love Asmir. I love Asmir Begovic. And Dan, he is a huge New England Patriots fan. And
I know.
I love Asmir Begovic, but you know me, I do not bite my tongue. He's just not going to have a good season. But I really do love Asmir Begovic. I'd love to be friends with him.
All right. Well then, I'm going to pick this up. I agree that Chelsea should win this match. I do agree that that Bournemouth play a more open style than Newcastle. I am a little bit, just due to the defensive lapses over the last couple of weeks, I am a little bit worried about Callum Wilson, who has played pretty well against Chelsea in previous matches. I think he's a guy who is, a decent amount of speed and also has a pretty good shot on him as well. Eddie Howe is great. He's a great manager, and I think even keeping them up for 3 or 4 seasons now has been an incredible achievement. I look for Eden Hazard, as he has in previous matches against Bournemouth, to absolutely take over and smash the pieces of Bournemouth's backline. And that's just the way I feel about it. I mean, if we don't get these 3 points to kind of build to that Liverpool match, I'm going to feel a lot worse, Dan, than if if we would have gone in and, at least taken care of business.
Well, I think you're looking at the possibility, and I think you sometimes see this in American football, right, where you get a battle of two undefeated teams, and I think it could be highly likely that when we are playing Liverpool at the end of September, that you potentially have number one, number two playing head-to-head against one another for 3 extremely valuable points, but we don't get there unless we beat Bournemouth. And I think we have the attacking prowess to beat them. It will be more open. We will not have 80+% possession of the ball in this match. That's not going to happen. But what we will have is more clear-cut opportunities on goal, and hopefully converting the goals, whether that be through Morata, whether that be through a substitution of Giroud in. But I think somewhere in a 2-1, 3-1, probably I will always pick the higher of the two. A 3-1 victory over Bournemouth is what I'm hoping to see, Mike. And I think it could be, again, a nice, wonderful start to that Premier League title that Sarri's going to win this season.
Yeah.
Expectation setting 100.
Yeah. Go strong or don't go at all. This is going to actually be our second match in a row in which the opposing right back picks up a red card in the previous match. So I think all those balls coming down the left side, Eden and company are going to be super happy looking at taking it to that replacement who hasn't played in the 2 previous matches. I will say I really I would like to the Arsenal game was one thing, but I think to call. I almost don't even think it's fair to call it a defensive lapse because Luiz watched his good friend almost get knocked the hell out and stop for a second. I think it's almost to me reminiscent of times where everybody blames a kicker in football. It's like, if you guys had done your damn jobs for the whole game, you wouldn't need to kick a 50-yard field goal, if you had moved the ball 10 yards. And I think while there have been mistakes, we weren't great, everybody's pinning on the back four, but a lot of what we saw in that Arsenal match was the midfield. You play defense with more than 4 people in the back, and until that midfield covers back, even Kovacic, great play, but where is his help on the left side when Alonso is bombing up almost completely across the pitch? So I'm wondering for me if and this is a little rambly, but do we look at Conte switching sides to maybe give a little bit more cover to Luiz, especially with the way Alonso's playing on the wings? But I think that we're putting way too much pressure on a single mistake in 90 minutes, because if you look at it, we had 81% possession and the offense got 3 shots on goal. 3 shots. That's offensive issues. That they had all the chances in the world, and that's not on the defense. I think our offense needs to step up and be clinical too. Well,
there it is. He had to wait a little bit, but he got the shots in on the offense. You took it to him. I appreciate it. No, I mean, look, let's we got to go into this eyes wide open. Obviously, Chelsea is still adapting under Maurizio Sarri and figuring it out. So Sarri ball will continue to evolve in its next iteration at Chelsea, and thankfully, this is a winnable match as long as the Blues go out and take care of business. And so, if nothing else, we're just really excited to be able to have one more match before a dreaded international break. So, again, Mike, did you have a prediction there? I can't remember.
I'm going to go 5-1.
My
word.
Whoa.
Whoa. Yeah. Go big. Love it.
2-0 for me, Brandon. 2-0.
Yeah, and I'll sit with the 2-1 as well. It's just... It's tight days right now. I haven't seen Chelsea look like they're ready to blow anyone out except Arsenal, and we squeaked that one out. So that's kind of where I stand on things. But it's been a blast, guys. We did it. Another episode that we've knocked it out. Thank you to everyone. So many social media questions. You guys are fantastic sending us, through Facebook, through Twitter, through Instagram, and even through Patreon now. We really, really appreciate connecting with everyone out there and listening to it. Again, a huge thanks to Alex Goldberg for jumping on with us for part 2. My man, really appreciate it.
Guys, I appreciate it. Sorry if I popped a blood vessel, but I really appreciate it.
It's called passion. We respect it. We appreciate it.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, that will do it for this episode. Again, thank you so much for listening. If you missed part 1, go back and check out our match review of the game from this past weekend. But other than that, we will go ahead and leave it until the weekend. Chelsea back home at the Bridge. Nothing feels better than a win at home, so we're really hoping the Blues go out and take care of business. We'll be back after the match, so until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.